Red Dead Redemption 2 Alternative Ending. Act 1. Arthur tries to reason with Dutch, telling him that Micah is the rat who betrayed the gang, but Dutch is still confused and doesn't know whom to believe. However, as he looks over at Micah one more time, something changes and Dutch sees the true nature of the man he had trusted for so long. Dutch's eyes widen in realization as he sees Micah's true colors. The man he had trusted was nothing more than a treacherous snake. He thinks back to all the times he had defended Micah, to all the times he had turned a blind eye to his actions, and he feels sick to his stomach. Dutch's heart bleeds as he realizes the harm he had caused to the man he had seen as his son, to the gang he had called his family. He starts to feel a sense of guilt and shame, and he knows that he needs to make things right. Dutch takes a deep breath and looks at Micah, who is still grinning. "You're a dead man, Micah," he says calmly. Micah's expression changes from triumph to confusion as Dutch pulls out his gun and aims it at him. Dutch pulls the trigger and Micah falls to the ground, dead. As Dutch turns back to Arthur, he sees that he's fading fast. He knows that he needs to get him to safety and quick. He picks up Arthur and starts to carry him down the mountain, trying to find a place where he can nurse him back to health. As they walk, Dutch can feel Arthur's breaths getting shallower and more labored. He knows that time is running out. He starts to think back on his life, on the choice he had made, on the people he had hurt. He feels a deep sense of regret and sadness, and he wishes he could turn back the clock and do things differently. Finally, they come across a small cabin, and Dutch lays Arthur down on a bed. He does his best to tend to his wounds, but he knows that they are too severe. Arthur is slipping away and there's nothing he can do to stop it. Dutch sits by Arthur's side, holding his hand and telling him that he is sorry, that he had been blind to what was truly important. He tells him that he had been wrong, that he had let greed and ambition cloud his judgment, and that he is truly sorry for the pain he had caused. Arthur looks up at him, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and understanding. "It's okay, Dutch," he says weakly. "Just do right by the others. That's all that matters." Dutch nods. He knows what he needs to do. He promises Arthur that he will do everything he can to make things right, to honor his memory and the memories of all those they had lost. As Arthur takes his last breath, Dutch feels a sense of sadness wash over him. He knows that he will never be able to fully make up for the pain he had caused, but he will spend the rest of his life trying. He takes a deep breath and prepares to start his journey of redemption. Act 2. Years later, Dutch has turned his back on his criminal past and has been living in solitude, haunted by his past actions. He spends his days reflecting on his life and trying to make sense of the world he had helped to create. One day, he hears a rumor that John Marston is still alive and living on a ranch somewhere near Blackwater. Dutch feels a sense of duty to seek out John and apologize for his past mistakes. He travels to the ranch and finds John, who is initially hostile and mistrustful. John demands to know why Dutch is there and why he should even bother to listen to him. Dutch tells him that he was wrong, that he let greed and ambition cloud his judgment, and that he is truly sorry for the pain he had caused. John, still skeptical, listens to Dutch's words carefully and thinks for a long moment. He remembers the pain and suffering that he and his family had gone through because of Dutch's actions. But as he looks into Dutch's eyes, he sees the sincerity of his words and the pain of regret. He decides to give Dutch a chance to make things right, although Abigail and Uncle see it differently. Act 3. Dutch and John spend the next few weeks working together, repairing fences, tending to the animals, and talking about the past. Dutch tells John about his life after the gang and the things he had done to try to make amends for his past mistakes. John is impressed by the changes in Dutch and he starts to see him as a friend and a mentor. He realizes that Dutch had learned from his mistakes and had turned his life around. As they sit by the campfire one night, Dutch tells John about his final moments with Arthur. He describes the pain and sadness he had felt as he watched his friend die. He also tells John how much he had learned from Arthur and how he had come to see him as a true hero. As Dutch prepares to leave the ranch, he looks at John and tells him that he's proud of him. He says that he sees in him the same spirit of courage and determination that he had seen in Arthur. He then gives John a small leather-bound journal, telling him that it belonged to Arthur. John takes the journal and opens it. A sense of sadness overwhelms him, but also gratitude towards Dutch for giving it to him. Dutch then rides off to the sunset, feeling a sense of closure and redemption. He knows that he had done everything he could to make things right. Epilogue. Years pass and Dutch lives a quiet life in his cabin, reflecting on the choice he had made and the people he had lost. He knows that he can never fully make up for the pain he had caused, but he tries to do his best to live a peaceful and meaningful life. One day, as he's sitting by the fireplace, he hears a knock on the door. He opens it to find Edgar Ross, the Pinkerton agent who had been pursuing the gang for years. Dutch knows what this means, and he prepares himself for the worst. He tells Ross that he has left his old life behind and he no longer poses a threat to anyone. But Ross doesn't listen and he pulls out his gun, aiming it at Dutch. In that moment, Dutch realizes that he will never be able to fully escape his past. He stands up and faces Ross, knowing that he will not go down without a fight. But before he can even make a move, Ross fires his gun, hitting Dutch in the chest. Dutch falls to the ground, feeling his life slipping away. As he takes his last breaths, Dutch thinks about his life and the people he had loved and lost. He thinks about Arthur and John and the impact they had on his life. He also thinks about the mistakes he had made and the pain he had caused. But even in his final moments, Dutch finds peace. He knows that he had tried to make things right and that he had lived a life filled with adventure, love, and meaning. As he closes his eyes for the last time, he feels a sense of closure and acceptance. He knows that he had done everything he could to make amends for his past, and that he had lived his life to the best of his abilities. The end. Well, yeah, that's the story that the AI had made for me. Of course, it doesn't make sense if we take in consideration the first game, but like as an alternative ending in an alternative universe, I think it's a really cool idea, to be honest. Edgar Ross killing Dutch in the end is just a really good ending to Dutch's story, because if the ending will be like just Dutch riding off in the sunset, it just will be way too romanticized. So it's better for him to die in the end. And yeah, what do you guys think? Write in the comments. And if you have any other alternative endings, write them also in the comments. It will be really interesting to read them all. And yeah, subscribe to my channel. If you have any other ideas for my future videos, write them in the comments. Spread this video around, please. It will really help me and this video. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. I wish you all the best. Bye bye.